Hey guys, Bowie here, and today we're going to talk about 4 weird builds that work really well in 727C. Before I start this video though, I just want to remind you guys that making videos like this takes a lot of time, a lot of digging replays, so if you learned something at the end of this video, make sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell, and share this video with friends so that more people can benefit from the video. Thank you a lot, and let's get going. Phoenix has a ton of different items she can go for. Vessel, Veil, Midas, ZEUS Scepter. I'm talking about the first items. All of them have its place, but what if I told you that GH played 17 games of Phoenix this week and he built Meteor Hammer after Tranquil Boots every single game? Not only that, but he has a 65% win rate doing so, and the answer is not very hard to understand. The build-up of the item is incredible because this hero needs HP regen, since his spells use HP to cast, and he needs mana regen, since they're also very mana heavy for a strength hero. That's not the only reason though. Phoenix oftentimes has a hard time doing something more than slowing when your egg is on cooldown, and Meteor Hammer, especially when you have a lockdown hero, can chain that stun from a safe position. Phoenix is also great at split pushing because of her wave clear, and Meteor Hammer makes that even more annoying for the enemy team, potentializing your utility besides your egg in fights. The potential is limitless, and because it's usually really hard to stop Phoenix dive mid-animation since it's pretty fast, you can make use of this item like no other hero, since the effective cast range of Meteor Hammer multiplies by 3 times pretty much. The crazy thing about Meteor Hammer is that it increases Phoenix farming speed by a lot, since when Spirits is on cooldown, there is Hammer to use in the wave or in a tower and vice versa, and as all of you know, this hero can scale amazingly with levels and also with items like Shiva's, Aghanim Scepter, Refresher, etc. At the end of the day, even though Meteor Hammer is cool and all and you can sometimes do some extra damage in teamfights, the summary of the item is that it just gives you a lot of farming power, kind of like a Midas, but it's actually useful. You're forcing buildings, you are pushing waves faster, and then you can build whatever item you need. A lot of times, actually almost every game, GH did get Shiva's for his Phoenix, but sometimes he would get a ZEUS Scepter when he needed to like dispel a silence of an Orchid or something like that. The ZEUS Scepter, if you go for it, can also set up the Meteor Hammer kinda nicely, but you know, items like Refresher and Nags are really hard to build, and as a position 5 or 4, you're rarely gonna get that much gold. The game's gonna be over anyways, but Meteor Hammer does give you that extra influx of gold without, you know, being a bad item. You're getting the sustain, you're getting some teamfight contribution, and you're getting a ton. So yeah, I definitely urge you guys to try this out. ZEUS got hit with a lot of nerfs in 727. Nimbus got a 20% cooldown nerf, Lightning Bolt also costs much more mana than before, no Talisman doesn't give damage amp, and so this means that not only rushing eggs is much harder, because none of the components give you mana regen, and because your ult cooldown is pretty high right now, so you have to play around a different aspect of the hero. This means that not only rushing eggs is much harder because when you fight, you're gonna spend more mana than before, and none of the eggs components give mana regen, but Nimbus itself is not as great as before. TOPSON's build makes use of the small move speed buff ZEUS got alongside the Travels buff, which gives ZEUS the map presence to be in fights, especially now that with his ult nerfed and longer cooldown, he needs to be around the skirmishes to be able to accomplish as much as he used to. Another overlooked change on ZEUS is the fact that Kaya now improves mana regen, and while ZEUS has a mana regen talent and no talismans give mana regen, so TOPSON stacks no talismans with that to create this early game power spike that is pretty strong. And at level 15, since you already have Travels, a move speed talent, and Kayasha not only gives more move speed, the damage amp on the item got a buff. You go from 8% to 16%. This means you're buying a second Kaya when you buy a Yasha that also fully stacks with the damage amp, but you get a ton of extra perks, being the move speed one of the coolest ones. This allows you to kite heroes that can burst you, and in some games, TOPSON would even grab Aether Lens against the likes of Venomancer, Shaker, and Arc Warden to be extra careful. Overall, this build doesn't exclude eggs, it just waits for the level 20 talent cooldown reduction, yes, he goes for this every single game that I watch, to make Nimbus feel like the old spell. Now, even though I mentioned eggs is still an item that you get, I think the nerfs to Nimbus puts ZEUS in a more comfortable position, where he doesn't have to be the Nimbus all the time. We can see that in this replay, he gets an Ethereal Blade. Not only it does synergize with this hero since it amplifies the damage it's gonna do with his spells, it is a decent counter to the likes of Sven, Faceless Void, And even though this time, I mean, the Lina is so squishy that she dies before the Ethereal Blade reaches her, you can clearly see how the move speed just allows ZEUS to play in a much more comfortable position, since usually he just gets jumped and die, but because he has his extra mobility, it's just easier to position in fights. This build might be a little old, I don't follow TA that much, but I think it's worth mentioning this because a lot of TA players I've seen in my pubs are completely oblivious to how good this is. TA spammers like Waga have been doing this for a while, and just this week, Waga has a 71% win rate with TA by rushing this item every game, and he played almost like 30 games, it's crazy. The reason for Orchid to be this popular is quite simple, honestly. The item costs the same as Desolator, actually a little cheaper, but with smaller components. The mana regen helps you while you're farming, because actually what you need to farm faster is refraction, so you don't need to spend money with clarities. You also get a lot of attack speed, which synergizes very well with the damage refraction gives you. And against a lot of popular heroes right now, the silence is a better kill condition than the burst of minus armor from Deso, since until you have a Blink Dagger, which costs, you know, about 2,000 more gold, you're not really that good at killing people. Especially when you're facing heroes like Anti-Mage, Faceless Void, how you're actually gonna kill those boys. That's not accounting for the fact that the item scales into something better, while Desolator is often a dead slot on this hero that you have to sell later into the game, and games right now have been pretty long. Blowthorn was very often a late game item that TAs would buy, and the problem with that purchase usually was that there was a big chance you were gonna abandon your Desolator just because of slot problems. With the new buffs to Orchid, it feels like TA players just felt tempted to experiment with Orchid, and it seems to be doing great. The power spike of having Blowthorn after BKB feels often much better than something like Daedalus right now, especially with carry heroes just going for these very greedy builds, oftentimes skipping stuff like BKB or just taking a little longer to get it. Tiny came back strong with the changes to his tree grab being good again and a damage talent at level 10, but there are games where playing right-click Tiny can be almost impossible. Viper attack speed's low, Phoenix attack speed's low, Pugna, heroes that can either slow your attack speed or heroes with an easy way to disarm you can totally ruin this hero. And a great way around it is Veil of Discord, especially now that the item is super cheap, gives much needed mana regen. You can burst a lot of glass cannon cores and squishy supports throughout the mid-game with this item. If you're a Tiny player, what I'm about to show you might be basic, but a lot of new people are testing their hands on Tiny, and I think it's cool to explain how the hero works. Avalanche deals 300 damage, but if the target is tossed while the Avalanche deals damage, it amplifies that damage 3 times, which is crazy. These two skills used separately deal 570 damage after reductions, but when you use them together properly, the damage jumps to 970 damage, which is more than double. And when you add Veil, that's 1200 damage. And remember, this is after reductions. A lot of support heroes have less than 1000 HP when Tiny has a Blink and Veil, and once you get the Avalanche talent and you add a 3-throw in the mix, it's not hard to deal close to 1.6k, 1.8k in the blink of an eye. Remember that all of these cooldowns are very, very short. Right-click Tiny is amazing in dispatch, but I discovered this build when I was making a how to win versus a Viper video as Tiny, because I realized this is the hardest matchup there is for Tiny, at least according to Dota 2 Pro Tracker. Quickly, I noticed that the few wins I could find always had Tiny going for the Blink Veil build alongside something like a Dagon or E-Blade rather than an Echo Saber. Right-click Tiny just needs too many items to start properly dealing damage, and because of the reach of Viper, you also need a BKB on top of all of the damage items, and oftentimes, you just cannot farm all the things that you need. Bursty Tiny can engage on the sidelines, eliminate targets until he can address Viper, and as we already talked about, he can burst Phoenix before eggs deployed.
This guy plays so stupid, dude. Actually so stupid. That was a duel, by the way, but he doesn't want to press it. Now he's scared of pressing.
Hey guys, do you feel like Arteezy playing Dota sometimes? Even pro players feel like that all the time, and the way they are able to win so many games, besides the fact that they're really good, is knowing when to pick every hero. Dota is an ever-changing game, and I'm here to help you with that. If you join my Meta Aficionado tier on Patreon, you will get a 20-minute video analysis of the patch weekly, as well as a 20-page PDF file that's gonna have the best heroes for every position. I'm also updating the list whether there's a patch going or whether the meta evolves naturally. This is a great way to get MMR because it will help you filtering the amount of heroes you have to pick. So not only are you gonna learn those heroes faster, but you're going to be playing the best heroes available right now. Guys, thank you all for watching, commenting, and subscribing. In case there is something here that you do not agree, or maybe you wanted me to address this subject in a different way, please make sure to leave it in the comments. If you want a more premium experience than my weekly meta guides, you can DM me on Twitter to get the rates for my coaching. In case you just got back to Dota because of the Companion or COVID-19, you can check our Discord server. There's a lot of cool people there. Maybe if you're afraid of playing Dota by yourself, you can find someone from your server to, you know, make your Dota experience a little better. Finally, if you want to see me stream or cast, you can follow me on Twitch. I have some big plans for streaming soon, so, you know, it's cool that you already follow me there because you're gonna know when it starts. And finally, if you didn't care about the meta guides, but you still want to help with the channel, after all, it definitely, after all, making these videos require a ton of effort, you can check the other tiers there and see if any of them interest you. Thank you a lot, have a good one, and bye guys.